Café Racer, huh? Or you've been dreaming about what it'd be like to have one of these sexy, sexy bikes? Well, then this is your Motovlog. Hey guys, Submoto here. So I've gotten a lot of questions as far as how to build a Café Racer and what kind of bike to get and all, and there are so many questions out there that I figured I'd just answer it all in a Motovlog. I hope that's okay. But before I get into to what defines a Café Racer, because there are some certain points that do define a Café Racer, just like there are different aspects that will define a sport bike and a tracker and a scrambler. I mean, there's certain elements that will make that bike what it is, and you can argue all day long about artistic freedom, man, because it is artistic freedom. But you get to a point where you build your bike. What the hell? So before I get into like the specifics of how to build a Café Racer, I want to talk about the history of Café Racer, since that's one of the things that's going to define a Café Racer as such. Oh yeah. So what makes it definable as a Café Racer is its history. Back in the day, you couldn't buy a sport bike. You couldn't buy a bike that looked like something you'd find on a GP track. So you'd have to make your own bike. And what people did was they would buy a stock bike, and then they would build it and modify it so that it would shed as much weight as possible, you know, bore out the cylinders or whatever, make it, give it more horsepower, and make it faster. That was the whole point, is making your bike faster than it would be stock. That's what it was. And obviously, by doing that, they emulated the bikes, the MotoGP bikes of the day. The whole point of it was not really getting a certain look. It was more like shedding your weight so it could perform like a MotoGP bike. You wanted to be able to do the ton. They could definitely not do the ton off the line when you bought them stock, and the ton is 100 miles an hour, or 160 kilometers an hour. And you had guys getting together, and there were all sorts of traditions that came up, like for example, guys would put a song on in a jukebox, and then they would like race to a certain point and back, and they'd have to be back before the song was over, and they would run red lights and just act like dumbasses and get themselves killed. And that's part of the Café Racer culture of the 50s and 60s. The Café Racer culture of now, of these days, is more like emulating the copycat bikes of back then. So it's a copycat bike of a copycat bike, in essence, is what it is. So anyway, I'm going to get into the specifics of the design aspects of a Café Racer, because obviously the mechanical aspects of a Café Racer is a whole chapter on its own, where it was all about making the bike faster and shedding the weight and doing that whole thing. So I'm just going to get into what it takes to make a bike look like a Café Racer. So here's the Café Racer that I've built, GS 550 Suzuki, and we're going to get into the specifics of how to build a Café Racer. Now, anything I tell you is not absolute, because building a Café Racer, like building any other bike, is really an art form, and there's no one specific way to carry that out. First thing you want to look at when buying a donor bike is getting the right frame. You'll notice that back in the day, in the 70s and 60s, a lot of the bikes had tube frames, and in fact, a lot of these tube frames were straight. They had like the seat part was pretty much in line with the tank, and that's just what you had back in the day. That's what they looked like. Whereas nowadays you have more like a V shape. The tank will go down, and then the seat will go up. And in reality, if you bought a V-frame motorcycle and made a Café Racer on it, it would probably end up looking more like a street fighter. So there are a lot of newer bikes out there that you can get, and I mean there are tons of examples. You have the Kawasaki W800. You could work on too. There's the Moto Guzzi V7 Stone. I like that one a lot. You could probably take any V7 and turn it into an awesome Café Racer. Obviously the Triumph Thruxtons, Bonnevilles, CB, like the Honda CB 1100, and of course the Yamaha SR 400 that just came out. All those bikes are awesome bikes, and you could get those from brand spanking new and make an awesome Café Racer out of them if you wanted to. So I definitely recommend going for something like that. If not, you know, there are still a lot of bikes that are from the 2000s or the late 90s that still are pretty good. But look for something newer. If you do get something older like this, make sure that you do have the mechanical expertise, or that you know somebody that is definitely trustworthy, because that's one of the main problems I've had, is finding somebody that's trustworthy to work on these bikes. And that can be pretty tough. You'd think it wasn't rocket science, but apparently it is. The foundation. Most Café Racers will have a front tire that is pretty much about as big as the rear tire, just by looking at it. So the tire size and the backbone, like the straight line running across it, is probably like the most important part of a Café Racer. That's what's going to give it that classic look. In general, whenever I build a Café Racer, I usually take the front tire and butch it up a size, because just like a wider tire, because that will definitely make it look more aggressive. Let's see there, that straight line. Then you have the cutoff points. Now the cutoff points is something that I worked on my bike, where you have the like the rear axle right there, and whenever you look at, and the front axle for that matter, I'll get to that in a second, you have like a point right there where the bike kind of stops, and that's kind of where you want your rear seat to stop. Not too far before that and not too far after the wheel, but just like the middle point. And in the front, you kind of have the same thing with the fender. It cuts off right there. So those are the cutoff points in the front and back. As far as the cutoff points on the top, in general, you'd want your tank, like the top of your tank, to kind of follow a straight line to your headlight. My headlight is a little bit higher than the tank is, so I got it as far down as I could. But that's pretty much the cutoff point. And the same goes for the seat, the rear cowl of the seat. Is you want those to kind of not really surpass the tank, the top of the tank. Now on a Café Racer, you'd want the classic look of the weight, the main weight, the visual weight of the motorcycle to be in the middle. You have the engine right there, and the tank, and that's kind of like where you want the focus points. You want the heavy part of the motorcycle to be right there. In general, anything that you're going to do in a project like this, chrome and aluminum colors make things bigger, and black make things smaller. Just remember that. So if an engine is black, you're going to kind of let it disappear into the machine. The swoop, the main swoop. Now, if you look at it from the side, you'll notice that the rear cowl, it's not really a cowl on this bike, but the cowl shape of where am I? Right there. Of that, it's kind of, if you follow the angle, it kind of swoops over to the tank, and it finishes its swoop from the cowl to the end of the tank. Usually the headlight might take part in that, so you'd have like a round swoop. So you have the foundation right there, you have the cutoff points at the ends, and then you'd have a swoop right there. And that makes for a classic look. Definitely a Café Racer look. As far as angles go, you'll notice that the rear suspension right there kind of has the same angle as the front suspension. Not exactly, but pretty darn close. And the front fork has pretty much the same angle as right there, like where the frame kind of bends. So you have a line there, and you have a line there, and so it kind of makes like an A shape right there, and it kind of makes like an A shape right there. And whenever a rider sits on it, I made sure that the rear sets, I got my feet, like usually my feet would be right there. I put my pedals that far back, and that's a whole construction that I made, so that whenever a rider sits on there, his legs, or my legs, would kind of be parallel to the front fork and to my arms. So my arms will be right there, and then my leg will kind of have like same A form. I decided to take that a step further on this bike, and obviously the most important part of a Café Racer are going to be their clip-ons. That's one of the main defining aspects of a Café Racer. They tried to copy the MotoGP bikes of the day, of the 50s and 60s, and obviously those bikes had clip-on handlebars to get further down and closer to the tank. Anyway, getting back to the shape, I wanted to keep that A format right there, so I made sure that they swoop down the right way, and that's why I have my speedometer at the top like that, to continue that A form. And even the engine, that's one of the reasons I wanted a wider engine. That's one of the reasons I chose a GS. It's thinner at the top, and then it kind of goes down in like an A form, so it complements the side view of the bike. It also does that if you look at it from behind. If you look at it from behind, you'll notice that it kind of has like an X-wing kind of look. You have the pipes, that kind of go inwards from each side, that, and then the mirrors will continue that X form. So there's a definite X from behind, as well as the A form from behind, which and a V form actually also, which complements the front and the side view. It's an art form. I mean, obviously you can do your own thing. I mean, you can have like a cafe tractor, or a a Café Racer Brat style. The Brat style doesn't even have a swoop. You can do your own thing. It's an art. It's your own thing. It's not like this is how it is and that's how you have to build it. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, some of the most wonderful machines out there are undefinable and are defined as Café Racers just because there's no other category to put them in. Anyway, guys, I hope it was useful information, and I hope that'll help you along the way to finding a motorcycle that will lend itself to building a Café Racer. And if you do have any questions, go ahead and ask me. You're more than welcome to. So anyway, remember to subscribe and ride, and I'll catch you all later.